Are live. Hey, this hangout is live on the air. Hello, everybody. It is November 9th, and this is the Snooze, the only real news podcast, broadcast in the world because we don't talk about any kind of fake news here. This is just real news. I am Tony Solo, and with me is my buddy Dylan. Hey, Dill.
Hello, I'm back. Well, we're back. We've been a month away, so I don't know what I'm talking about. Blah blah blah.
I think our last episode was 3 weeks ago because we were late last month, so it hasn't been that long since we were together.
Yeah, but I think we worked out because we tend to like to talk about Walking Dead, and we got 3 episodes under our belt, so we can chat about that.
Right, and then we can do 2 more because next month we'll probably be either 1 or 2 episodes away from the finale, and then we can do a finale wrap-up, which we'll probably do, and I'm hoping it kind of works out so it doesn't interfere with any Christmas festivities or anything like that. So,
yeah, not that far away. Just thought about it. Thanksgiving is 2 weeks away from today.
Yes, we were talking about that because we were trying to figure out what the hell is going on. So, but as usual, before we get into the nonsense part of the show and before we get into the Walking Dead discussion, what we usually like to do is we like to honor some people with a mention of their birthday on the Snooze. So take it away, Dill.
Yep. And today is Miss Lisa Marie Bowman's birthday. So happy birthday to you, Lisa.
Okay, hold on a second. I got to go on and I got to say happy birthday. Go ahead. Go ahead. Is anybody else's birthday today?
Yeah, no, not today. Just Lisa's. It's just today. And then November 17th is our friend Doc Zeke, who we just mentioned offline because fantasy football, all that stuff. The 21st of November it's me, Karen Marie's birthday. November 27th is Mr. Scott Troutman's birthday. And December 12th, besides being my lovely daughter Noelle's birthday, is also one of my co-hosts on Dylan Knows' birthday, Mr. M.J. Khan is on December 12th.
That was a pretty long one.
Yeah, and believe it or not, December 12th is like a month away.
Yeah, it's hard to. It just goes so quick. So, before we started, we have another shout out for Mr. John McGivna, who had some shoulder surgery, which is a lot harder to say than you might think. Try to say shoulder surgery.
Because you want to say soldier shouldery.
Unless I say it nice and slow, it tends to not want to come out right. So,
these are good. Our thoughts and prayers, which is a big term lately, are actually with John McGivna, and hopefully his recovery is quick and painless. Hopefully. So here's to you, John.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
Let me pour a drop out for my homies. Hey, it's Polish water.
I'm drinking coffee, so I'm not doing that. A double shot of energy from Starbucks. So
anyway, I was telling Dylan it's a little bit sad because on Tuesday, and thank you, Mr. Scott McDonald. He mentioned this to me last week, and I asked him if he could remind me that it was coming back on. The Secret of Oak Island, which is I love the show. It's a little bit wacky. It's fun to tweet, but like there are some people that tweet that show and they do it in a vicious way. I like to just find like the things that they say and twist them and whatever because I like the guys. I like the show.
Yeah, it's a good show. Yeah, haven't watched it in a while, but I have watched it. So yeah.
But when I was tweeting on the show. During the show on Tuesday, I was like, "Where's John and Helena?" And that's when I saw, John's tweet. So I don't want to say anything to him at the moment, like, "Hey, we're missing you on Oak Island," because like that'll just It'll kill you. But now here goes the little bit of a sadder tie-in. The reason that I started watching that show and Scott McDonald started watching the show, and it might be the reason that Dawn started watching the show, was on Tuesday nights. Amy Glitters used to tweet that show.
Yeah.
She loved Oak Island, and she got us all into it, and we were. It was just a good time. So it made me think of Amy, and I was like, wow, there's no John. There's no John. Actually, John didn't tweet so much, but Helena did. But I'm sure Helena wasn't tweeting because she was busy with John. But it just brought back the whole Amy situation, which was a little bit sad. So
it does look like, though, by reading Patrick's tweets and Facebook pages, that he and Lucas are doing really well, considering he seems to be a healthy, happy young little boy, and Patrick seems to be okay. I mean, granted, you're not going to really get the full depth of everything because it's a tweet and Facebook, but from what we've seen so far, I think they're surviving the best they can. Yeah,
they're getting on. Well, and the sad thing is, when he gets old enough, if you could still find the tweets, he could really get to know his mom a lot by reading the stuff that she put out. But I didn't mean to bring the show down because they're good memories, but it's just sad that there's no more new memories are going to be made with Amy.
Yeah, so, John actually just tweeted. Let's see if I can find it here quick. It was just popped up on my. Why isn't my phone working? Come on, man, because it just popped up. Oh, here we go. Here we go. Am I on the right page? It just popped up.
Yeah, a complete shoulder replacement, doing well. Even have a special exercise chair that I'm sitting in now. I wonder if it's got one of those wrist supports in it, or I wonder if he has to use his other arm. I'm just asking, John, do you have to use your other arm for certain things? Because
heaven. It's real news, I guess.
It's not fake news. It's true. He just said that, hey, he confirmed. There's confirmation of our real news story there that he had a shoulder replacement surgery. See, it's easier to say it that way. You could say it fast, shoulder replacement surgery, but it's hard to say shoulder surgery. You have to say it nice and slow. Oh boy. So the continuing saga of and it's over. High school football season is over. My high school's last game was last Friday. The game ended after 3 quarters. Good news and bad news here. One of the kids had to be taken off the field in an ambulance. And the initial word that we got, now my daughter is a cheerleader, so the initial word that they got was they thought he had broken a rib or 2. And if you've ever attended any high school football games or any kind of professional sport, and there's usually an ambulance standing by, always, so we didn't have to wait. There's always a ambulance there. There's always EMTs. There's the trainers on the field. So there's a lot of people there for the kids if anybody gets hurt. And the team was losing by in excess of 30 points. It was 33-0. And the injury happened right at the end of the 3rd quarter. And at the start of the 4th quarter, our coach, because 2 other players had gotten some leg injuries.
Okay.
And they had a winless season, and there was going to be one more game because this weekend is starting the playoffs in high school football, at least in New Jersey. I'm sure it's the same down by you guys. And usually there is a consolation game, so some of the teams that aren't in the playoffs get together and play a game or whatever. But I believe, and I don't know what the term is. I think there's a special term where our coach seeded the game. He kind of surrendered. We didn't forfeit the game, because I think when you forfeit a game, there's no, the game never happened, but the other team gets a win. But if you do that, the kids on the other team who had gotten any kind of stats, like those stats kind of disappear, I think.
Yeah.
I'm not
I think
sure.
when you forfeit, I think they do. But if you seed it, I think, like you're saying, they still show up as
Right.
being.
As a one, but yeah. So basically, at the end of the fourth quarter, he said. At the end of the third quarter, he said, "Okay, yeah, that's it. It was a great game, and like it was probably one of the better, and it was actually a road game also. So it was okay.
He's
Uh,
ambidextrous.
it's good to know there, John. Well, at least you can put a smile on your face still. That's all that matters. Um, so I'm guessing, and because now my daughter is still going to cheer and cheer practice because they have their own competitions coming up in a week or so. So,
Does she do basketball?
no, she's a cheerleader. So they call it the CVCs here. It's the combined varsity cheer, something like that.
Okay,
it's
all right.
it's um, for basketball. We don't have cheerleaders. They have a dance team. I think they do dance teams. uh, because I guess some of the gyms aren't big enough to have like cheerleaders on the side and have people be able to watch a basketball game.
That makes sense. No, it does, because our gym, I remember in high school, was fairly small. So yeah, but I mean, you have to have the seats out, the stands out, and then you've got the court, and then you've got where the players. Yeah, so it's
Yeah.
kind of hard to fit in there.
Yeah. So they have a dance team, and my daughter was going to try out for the dance team, but then she decided against it because it would interfere with some other activities that she had. And plus, like she goes in, she starts cheer. Like I think the football players start the second week in August.
Yes,
Before
that sounds about right.
And they start about the same time. So like they get a couple of weeks of practice in, and they do it every day, for a couple hours every day, even in the summer, just like the football players do. So they can be ready for the first game of the season. So I think the dance team's already starting to do some of their stuff now because basketball season is considered a winter sport,
right?
And it's just getting ready to start kicking off. So there would be a little bit of an overlap. And she is a varsity cheerleader, and she is going to the the CVCs, and this team has won the last 3 seasons in a row.
Okay.
So she's looking forward to that, and so he will be able to tweet Oak Island next week, which is awesome. That's good to hear. Now, will you be doing that one-handed, or will you be doing that with both hands, or one at a time? Like, hey, this tweet will come from the left, this tweet will come from the right. Maybe you can meet at the middle.
In the middle somewhere.
or you see, the other thing you can do is, you can use the speech to text mode of your phone, where you just hit the microphone and say something and hope it gets it right. Just don't say shoulder surgery because it could screw that up. Okay.
Soldier surgery.
Shoulder surgery. So yeah, we were going to talk about Snark Alec fantasy football, but
the only thing you need to know about that is I have 2 quarterbacks. I have Jameis Winston and I have Blake Bortles. Jameis Winston's out for at least the next couple games, and now Blake Bortles is my quarterback. And I looked in our league to see if I could find somebody else. There's nobody else, no other quarterbacks that I would take in a second. So.
Yeah. So my 2 quarterbacks are Cam Newton and Alex Smith, and with Cam Newton, he's going to give you a couple of those games where he's going to score a gajillion points, but then he's going to give you a whole bunch of games where he does not meet his projections. And same thing, Alex Smith is one of those steady guys. He'll get you 23, 24 points. And every once in a while, he'll throw you a 35er. But the thing is, you know, it's not bad if he's not on your team. But if you do some reading up and you know the team that they're going to be playing, you know, doesn't allow a lot of passing yards and a lot of passing touchdowns, yeah, you might think that this is a bad matchup for this quarterback, and then you put him on your bench and he scores 80 points. That's when it hurts. I've done that with Cam Newton. Okay, I've only like one of his best games. He's had 3 really, really good games, and a couple of 2 or 3 adequate games, and the rest of them have been duds. For his really 2 of his 3 really great games, he was sitting on my bench. You know, so he can go F himself, all right? But other than that, you know, we have something called keepers where you can keep a player from last year. I had Johnson for Arizona.
Oh, Jesus.
Really good.
Yeah.
He's still on my roster because I don't want to drop him. I don't want to drop him because, you know, he might come back. You know, they might give him an artificial leg or some kind of crap. But not that he's good. He might come back at the end of November. I don't know. I don't care if he comes back, but I think he's still going to be viable for next season.
Yeah, so yeah, you want to keep him on there because I have him in one of my other leagues, and I just put him in the IR section, and so you can still have somebody to take a spot, and then.
Well, we don't have an IR section there.
Oh, we don't have an IR section? Oh.
No.
Oh, I'll have to look into that. Sorry, man. I thought I did. I will look into that for you and see if I can maybe put that in there. Maybe I'll put that in there this week, maybe.
Yeah. So anyway, so that was our talk about Snark Alec Fantasy Football. Me and Dylan, our woes. My prediction is I think Kelly Toole might take the
championship. Yeah.
The championship. You know, it is what it is. It's fun. It gives me a reason to watch some of the games. I mean, my Jets should be 8-1. You know, just like the Eagles, but they're not, okay? Because we don't have a quarterback and we have a shitty freaking coach. What can I say? I mean, hey, they beat the Bills in a big game last Thursday, but the 3 weeks before that, all second half losses. Games they were winning, should have won, and let the games get away.
Should have beat the Patriots, yeah. You should have beat the Patriots.
Should have beat the Patriots, should have beat the Dolphins, and there was another team in there that they lost in the fourth quarter where they went in at halftime where they were either winning or it was close, you know, a couple of points. And those are the kind of games that you should win, and they didn't, you know, and they fell apart in losing those games. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and the problem with my team is we're inconsistent. I mean, we've had 2 shutouts. Yes, they're against the Dolphins and the Bengals, who are both crappy. We had 2 shots, but then we got our asses handed to us by Jacksonville.
So now I asked somebody who's, and I'm not a big sports stat guy, but is it me or has there been an ungodly number of shutouts so far this year?
There has been.
I'm saying this as an opinion. I'm not saying this as a fact, and I'm asking it as a question.
No, I think you're right. No, absolutely, because the Ravens hadn't had a shutout since like 2011, and that's 6 years, and they have 2 already. And then there was a couple weeks ago where there were
3 games.
There was 2 or 3 games, that had shutouts. So it was, San Francisco got shut out, and I don't know, maybe it's the whole, parity is finally, fully in charge, because this year in the NFL has been so weird. I mean, all the injuries, all the weird stuff going on. It's just been a really bizarre, strange year in football, and it might keep going. I mean, we still have we're about a little bit over halfway, but just slightly over halfway.
I think we're just at this is they considered last week the halfway point of the season, but again, look at the team that I think is probably going to be a force to reckon with this season and for several seasons to come has to be the Eagles, because not only are they good and they are adaptable, but they're also very young, and that's a team that could be, if they stay away from those serious type of injuries, good for several years to come. And look at the way Dallas fell apart. I mean, um, Prescott hasn't been as good as he was last year. Maybe because Elliott's not there. You know.
Yeah, I mean the whole Elliott up down. He's suspended. No, he isn't. Yes, he is. No, he isn't. Yes, he is. No, he isn't.
Yeah.
It's all confusing. And then Jerry Jones is talking about, yeah, I'm going to sue the NFL and its owners if Goodell gets an extension. And the owners are like, yeah, we're going to give him an extension anyway, so you can do whatever you want. So,
well, I hate to say it, but most people will agree with me when I say it's nice to see Dallas floundering.
Yes, I agree with you.
Yes. Well, two more things. Quarterbacks. Eli Manning.
Oh my
Okay,
God.
and the Giants implosion. I mean, that's a team in disarray, and I have a feeling that this coach is gone. Macadont is what his name should be. But I think he's gone. And here goes Eli Manning. He's got like 200 plus games where he has started. Okay, and there's only two people like Brett Favre and his brother Peyton who are ahead of him in how many consecutive game starts without because of injury. So I mean that's amazing. And Aaron Rodgers, going down. I mean, I think he's done because I think that's for a quarterback a collarbone. That's a tough injury to come back from.
Yeah.
Because it's so easy to re-injure that, and it's weak once you break it. You know what I mean? So I he may come back, but I don't know about him. So thoughts and prayers with you. Maybe he needs to get shoulder surgery. Bionic shoulder to help his collarbone.
Just real quick, I'm gonna just mention real quick since we're on a sports tangent, real quick. I don't think I've seen you since then. I actually attended my first ever like Pee Wee hockey game. My nephew Carson in Virginia, he's on the travel team down there, and we were surprised to find out. I didn't even know we have an ice house like right across 795 in this sports complex area. There's actual ice rink that the local college, Stevenson University and UMBC, they use for their college hockey teams. And so my nephew's travel team was going to come up and play. Guess Reisterstown has a travel team also, and so I'd never been there, so I figured we're right there. So we went and saw my nephew play, and it was insane. I mean, they had to go. You're talking about how you ended the high school football game because of the score. That was because of other things, but they had to enforce the slaughter rule because my nephew's team was just that good, and they were leading at the beginning of the third period, 10-0. And that was the slaughter rule. So they just stopped playing the game. But I'd never been in an ice house before. And it's an ice house. You walk in and it's like 30 degrees in there because you have the ice and you have to keep the air conditioning on so that the ice stays frozen. You can't have the heat on. So, but it was fun to watch though. It was really, but the fact is I was totally surprised. Like, we have a hockey rink right over there, and it's also it's a combo hockey rink and indoor soccer field too. It's like I did not know we even had that.
We have a place similar to that. I think it's still called the Ice Palace. They actually have 3 indoor, well, obviously hockey rinks. But my daughter used to go there for. This is funny. Okay, so when my daughter was younger, the older one, she wanted to take ice skating lessons.
Right.
Okay. So every Saturday we'd go there, and it was 3 hours. So it was group lessons for about an hour and a half, and then it was an hour and a half of free skate, which the only thing I had to do was spend $3 to rent a pair of skates, and I could go on the ice and be with her.
Oh, cool.
So we'd spend 3 hours. So, my wife was like, "Well, one of us has to go on the ice with her," and I was like, "Well, I've never been ice skating before. Have you?" And she's like, "No." I said, "I've done some roller skating." Okay. I put on the skates. 2 seconds later, I'm on one leg, I'm skating backwards. I'm doing all this stuff. And my wife is looking at me like, come here. I thought you said you never skated before. I said, I've never ice skated before. Nope, never, not once in my life. So I said, so after a couple of weeks, and I'm doing it, and I'm getting a little bit better too. I fell a couple of times, but sometimes I seriously never skated before. So instead of taking out this other 6 or 7 year old kid and having me fall on them, I don't know how to stop really good. Let me just throw myself on the ice. I said, I should get myself a pair of ice skates because I could save money. And my wife is like, well, let's go see. We can go to the pro shop, $65, $70, $80, whatever. And I was like, yeah, well, forget about that because, we'd have to be doing this for years in order for me to justify that cost.
Right, exactly, yeah.
So a couple of weeks later, we go into Philly and we go to this mall and they had a Sears outlet. And what is Sears selling? They've got this wall of ice skates. $10 a pair.
Holy.
I was like, you've got to be effing kidding me. These are the same skates that they were selling in this place, but they were just black and white skates. They're hockey skates. Okay. They call them hockey skates, but I mean, I wasn't getting figure skating skates, I was like, seriously, these things are $10? I said, maybe I'll get 2 pair. My wife was like, don't get crazy. I bought them. I used them for 3 years. I still have them. They're in my garage. I still have them. But they paid for themselves 5 times.
Wow.
I mean, because first the older one went for a couple of years, and then the younger one went for a couple of years, and every time, it was free skate time, go. And we've been back skating a couple of times. It's pretty awesome. But once the older one got a little bit older, and when they were doing lessons, I used to go into, because you could just walk over into the other rinks. They're all connected. It was like one big, long building. And I'd watch some of the hockey. And, there's a big difference between the peewees, your 8 and your 9-year-olds playing, and some of the other ones. Because it's like sometimes with the little kids, it would take them a half an hour to get from one side of the rink to the other, And it was also did you ever go to see little kids play soccer?
Yes.
Okay, so when they're they're all where's the ball? You can't see it, but everybody except the goal catcher, the goalkeepers who are playing with butterflies and stuff or around the ball. And basically they're kicking each other in the shins more than they're actually hitting the ball. That's kind of what this stuff looked like, but it is fun to watch. It is
Yes,
fun.
it is. Absolutely was.
Ooh, so Aaron Rodgers got 13 screws in his collarbone to keep it together. Pretty sure he is done for the rest of the season. I'm pretty sure he's done for the rest of his career. Yeah, if it was broken that bad where they had to kind of piece it together, it's never going to be the same. They'd have to put a piece of titanium in there, because, okay, your collarbone is right here. I don't know if you can see that, but mine was broken. I broke this one. And
wow.
if I pull this down, you'd be able to see one is kind of like that and one is straight, So, yeah, I feel your pain there, Aaron Rodgers. I broke my collarbone when I was 13. So I've been living with this for a long fuck time. See what it did to my football career? I don't have one.
Exactly.
And that's real news.
At least you didn't need shoulder surgery.
Yes, I did not. and it's kind of like ribs. There's nothing that they can do for you except put a bunch of screws in there. But for me, I had to wear this harness that went around and went under my armpits just to hold everything in place. But I mean, there's no cast, there's no nothing. You just have to, not do stuff with it. That can't do that stuff.
Can't do it.
So before the show, I sent you a link to a picture that showed. So and I read it real quick, but I didn't I don't know what the context was. It says they were trying to hide it, and I'm wondering if that was out there for one of. Okay, so the picture was the Millennium Falcon, and they had surrounded it by cargo containers, so people couldn't see it. And I'm wondering if that's for the upcoming new Star Wars exhibits in one of the Disney resorts, because they're doing one in California and one down in Florida. They're opening up a whole new Star Wars section. So I don't know if that's for one of those, or if they're actually had it hidden out in the field someplace because they were going to do some future filming with it. Don't know.
Because they were, I don't know. I'm reading the article now. It doesn't really say much. It was in London, which is where it's on the set of the Long Cross Studios, which is
Okay.
a facility in London. I would assume it probably had either because they just finished filming the Han Solo movie that'll come out next year.
Okay.
So I think that might have probably had something to do with it. They were probably filming it there, and they, I guess, when you're actually when you look at, I don't know if I can get a good view of this, but I don't know. There's a picture of it right there. I think what they're trying to do is, if they were filming it, you can only see it from the air. We have all these containers around it. If you're just on the ground walking around, you're just going to see these containers. You're not going to know what it is. But this is because it's from the satellite, so you can actually see that's the Millennium Falcon. But if you're down on the ground looking at it, you're really like, okay, it's just a bunch of shipping containers. What the hell is it doing here? So you can't tell exactly what it was.
Yeah.
So I think it's what it is.
For you guys on Twitter, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to retweet the link. Not to anybody in particular, but this is the link that I sent to Dylan. And once you click the story, you'll see that aerial photograph of what that was from. But as I was telling Dylan, I was down in Florida this past summer for vacation, and what I would like you people to do is find Disney on Google Maps and then do a satellite view and just go around to the various parts. Find the various parks and then switch to satellite view and just look down on the parks, because there are things that Disney has done on their property. Like they'll put like they'll carve Mickey Mouse into like the shrubs and things. And there's things that you can see from the sky, that Disney has done that you can only see if you're overhead. Not that it's like on the side of a mountain. I was explaining this to Dylan. It's not like, sometimes like they've got like a hill or something, and then they put the flowers in the shape of the Mickey Mouse head or something like that. It's more than that. Like there's stuff, like there's property that Disney owns that they are not ready to develop yet or whatever, and they do stuff with it, to let you know, hey, this is Disney property, and you can only see it from overhead. So if you've got nothing to do, like if it's raining or whatever, it's definitely something worth checking out.
Yep, absolutely. Google Maps is always just a fun thing, just the weird things you can see. And there's all these stories about things that people have discovered or noticed or seen from the Google Maps satellites, and also some of the street level views also. That is just crazy weird. So it's a very interesting thing.
I have had 2.5 encounters with the Google Maps car recently, and I know exactly where I was. And I actually, Apple is doing the same thing. Apple is doing their own maps, and I've seen the Apple Maps car also, but I'm not motivated enough to go
to see if you're on it,
to see if I'm on it yet. But I know where I saw it. And it's funny because the Google car was actually going down Route 1 or Roosevelt Boulevard in PA, and I was driving within 3 or 4 car lengths of it for 5 or 6 miles at least. And there was a couple of times I was right alongside, and the Google guy that's driving the car California plates, he drives like he's from Pennsylvania because, hey, I'm going to go to this lane. Like sometimes he's on my left, sometimes he's on my right. And like, at one point I was like looking like right at the cameras, I know they blur out people's faces and stuff, but I'd definitely be able to identify my car because company car. So they would probably blur out the words that are on the side. So, really, really, really fun stuff. But they haven't. This was recently too, and it takes a couple of months before they update things. So, the funny thing is, at one point, my father-in-law's house in Brooklyn, we used to have a Mitsubishi Montero, so it's a pretty decent sized truck. For about 3 years, it was sitting in front of my father-in-law's house, and I know that's my car. And then that changed, and then there's actually a picture where I can identify my father-in-law crossing the street. Like, oh, that's my father-in-law. That's definitely him. Like, and I show everybody, yep, that's your father-in-law. That's him.
Awesome.
Pretty funny. So, the thing is, I know there's a whole bunch of websites that are almost dedicated to Google Maps where you could like just Google like strange things seen on Google Maps. And because there's people that either somehow or other, I think there's a website where you can go and find out where the car is. Or people just, maybe, hey, the guy that's driving the car does what he's not supposed to do and calls up some people, hey, I'm going to be driving by your house, and they do some weird things. So like there's like definitely like weird things you can see on the street view stuff. It's fun. There's websites and there's
Oh yeah.
conspiracy theories built around the whole Google Street View, Google Maps, Google Satellite thing. But last thing about Google Maps, I will know because October, second week of October, after our last show, I think it was only about 2 weeks ago. I had a wooden swing set. Had a wooden swing set in my backyard. Well, when you have 20 and a 16-year-old and a 20-year-old swing set,
yeah.
And every time I cut the grass, I got to keep on going around it. So I disassembled, destroyed, demolished it, and I pretty much took it apart. It took me and my brother-in-law. My father-in-law and mother-in-law gave us that to the kids,
right? Yeah.
When we moved into this house, I didn't pay the $150 to have it assembled. I said, no, I can probably do it myself. I was a young guy, and when the thing was being delivered, this 19-year-old kid couldn't have weighed more than 130 pounds. He had some muscle on him, but he looked like a well-built crack user. You know what I mean? He was like that thin, but he had the
big arms, right?
But he was defined. He had a six-pack and stuff. Nice ass too. It's kind of cute. He said, so you didn't pay for assembly? And I was like, no. And he says, I can do it for you. I said, you could. How much would that cost? He said about $75. I said, $75? How long would it take? It's about 2 hours, 2.5 hours. I said, nah, don't worry about it. I take things apart and I put things together all day long. I'm sure I can figure out how to put this thing together. And I'm saying to myself, if this skinny little bastard can do it, I can do it. Day and a half it took us.
God.
Well, only because, I mean, it's just like anything else. If you're building cars all day,
right,
the first time you have to put together a car, you have to look at every detail and blah, blah, blah. Do it 5 or 6 times, and you get a little bit faster. If you do 30 of them, you don't even need the instructions or whatever. Especially now with swing sets and stuff, there's different modules and different structures and stuff. But once you get familiar enough with it, you can pretty do it. And he was going to do it by himself, dude. Okay.
Well, he's probably, he's a delivery person. So as you said, he's probably done it. Like he probably offers it to everybody.
Right.
And a lot of people say, yeah, go ahead. So he's probably one of those, like he could do it in his sleep, probably.
Yeah. So,
Day and a half.
Day
Jeez.
and a half. And I was doing it by myself, and I got a good half of it, but then got to 1 or 2 points where I definitely needed another set of hands. So, day and a half to put it up. It
So
took
how long?
me
Yeah, yeah.
6 hours to take it apart.
Okay.
But I was out there by myself, but I was also trying to take it apart. I wasn't just trying to chop it up. Like, the longest piece was the plastic slide. So I figure I have to make everything um, that size or smaller. And I took it apart as much as I could. And then there was a couple of things that I just had to break up. But so and I did it, and I carried it all out to the curb. And so my brother-in-law had taken out his swing set. His was in a lot better shape than mine was, and he didn't even have it anywhere near as long as I did. That's why it was in better shape, because I took care of mine. But the bugs get to it anyway. He took out half, brought it to the curb 1 week, and then the next week he took out the rest of it, because he was afraid that if he put it all out at once, they wouldn't take it. I brought the whole thing out. I came home. It was gone. It's like, thank you very much. So it's gone. So every once in a while, I look at the aerial view just to see when it gets updated, because I can see the swing set and the trampoline, and now there's just a trampoline out there. So I'm waiting to see when that disappears. I'm guessing next spring,
Yeah.
because they don't usually like to take those overhead satellite things during the winter time. It's just too drab and too gray.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, my backyard would be that way because we've got lots of trees back there. So you take the view of it, it would just be like dead up in there.
I think at this point, my backyard would be very colorful because, okay, you guys have the same problem. Like, do you still have like most of the leaves on the trees? Because up here, it hasn't. I mean, the trees are turning and stuff, but it's like it's almost Thanksgiving, and at this point, usually most of the trees are done.
Yeah, no, yeah, we do still have a lot. The ones in the back are a little bit different. They start going regardless, like early September. It's whatever type of tree it is. They lose stuff a lot quicker than the other ones. But yeah, if you look in our neighborhood in general, yeah, we still got some oranges and yellows, but it's getting more and more sparse every day. And now we've had a couple of days of rain. We're gonna have a brutally cold day tomorrow. It's gonna be 40,
yes,
40 degrees here, 21 degrees is the low. So.
Well, you see, your weather is interesting to me because what you're getting when it comes to like big storms and stuff that are coming up the coast, you usually get 6 to 12 hours before they get into my area, because you're only, I think, about 150 miles or so away from me, maybe a little bit more. Yeah. I mean, you're not that far away from me. But when it comes to this cold stuff, I mean, Dylan and I get the same weather just about, with sometimes with a little bit of a delay in when we see things. But it's when Dylan talks about the deep freeze tomorrow, and tell me if this matches yours. And I haven't looked at it yet today, but as of last night, our high temperature is supposed to be something around 31 degrees. And it's supposed to be like the wind chill is going to be teens or in 20s. And I don't know if it's changed. But that's the last time I looked was what
I think you're getting a little bit worse than us. Right as of now, I don't see, and I haven't heard anything about any wind. It's just going to be a deep freeze on us. And tonight is going to drop to about maybe the mid 30s for a low, and then it's going to just it's barely going to rise from what it is in the evening. So like at 7 a.m. it's going to be like 36 degrees, and the high for tomorrow is 40, so it's only going to rise 4 degrees in 12 hours, something like that. And then as night descends, it's going to drop into really, really low temperatures. We're going to be in the 20s, and then I think Saturday is going to be around the same thing. I don't think we're getting any 30s. Maybe 38. No, we're getting 38, I think. 38 on Saturday, I think, is what they said.
Okay. So my official forecast is high of 39 tomorrow, with winds 14 to 18 miles an hour with gusts as high as 30.
Oh, they
And
changed
then,
it. Sorry, it's 37 for us tomorrow.
yeah.
So yeah,
And then Friday night, what's your Friday night? Because Friday night got us going down to 17.
21. So you're a
Yes.
little bit colder than us.
You want to know something? Once you get below 20 degrees, it doesn't make a difference what it is. Once you get to around that 21 degree mark, it doesn't make a difference how much colder it gets. It's effing cold, especially considering that it was in the 50s today. You know what I mean? Considering that we had 70-degree weather last week, to go from 70-degree weather to the teens is effing cold. I mean,
It
the
is.
last couple of days, last weekend, I think everybody was complaining that they were cold, and I put the heat on, you know, and I've got the heat set at 69 degrees here, which isn't terribly hot, you know. Um, it's a little bit on the cool side, but I'm down in the basement, so
Ours
uh,
is at 70. That's what we set
yeah,
ours at.
yeah. I mean, I'll pop it up to 70, 69, 70. I think it might be set at 70 now, because if I set it any higher, upstairs where the bedrooms are, it'll get stifling hot. So it tends to be cooler on our first floor than it is upstairs. But
Yep.
yeah.
Yep.
So now we covered the weather. We did sports. We did birthdays. Um,
We are a real news station.
we did
Yes.
travel. Because we talked about Disney and,
We
and, and,
did.
and Google Maps and stuff. So just like your regular 6 o'clock news, we just do this once a month. We cover all the bases. Um, the only thing we have to have a cooking segment. Um,
Let me see. Well, Dawn's cooking right now.
uh,
She's making beef on a stick and little
oh, I love meat sticks.
tortlets. She's taking tomorrow off because my father-in-law, he is a member of the Knights of Columbus, and they always do this fundraiser at the Olney Theater. It's a local theater down there in Olney.
What do they do in the daytime?
With the Knights?
Yeah,
Oh, I don't know. That's bad, dude.
I thought it was a legitimate question.
They sometimes have meetings. I don't know. But anyway, but Dawn is they're going to be doing a play tomorrow. They're doing Annie, and Dawn's going to take the kids down to see it. And there's a reception afterwards that my mother-in-law is running, and my Dawn is going to be bringing down the beef on the stick and these like tortlet things that she's going to be making today and tomorrow. So there's our cooking segment.
Yeah. Yeah. So, entertainment news. Loud and Loaded is coming back.
Yeah.
So we were talking about that. Mike, I actually saw him this week, and he did mention that was coming back, and he kind of said, "Hey, so what are you going to do?" And I said, "Nothing." It's very difficult for me because I'm constantly running. Especially, I mean, it's going to get a little bit better, but it also gets a little bit worse because the young one, who's a cheerleader, also has a job, and she works at the mall, and she's actually. I was going to go get her. Actually, I was going to before the show started. I was going to say, "Hey, Dylan, might have to cut this to 9:45," but then she called up, and she asked my wife to get her for some reason. So I was like, "Okay, good. I'm off the hook. Then I can take my time." It's a good thing. It's a good thing you're ambidextrous there, John. I'm just saying, because if you're going down to the single digits, I don't even know where I want to go with that.
Oh my god.
But anyway, yeah. So, yeah, I'm very busy, and it just seems like sometimes I get home late, and not that it. Thursday night seems to be now like the worst time for the snooze. It used to be the best time, and now it seems. But you want to know something? In a couple of weeks, it'll probably be the best night of the week to do the snooze again. But I haven't even, like he mentioned it to me, and I'd have to think about it and see if there was anything I think I can contribute. But at this point, I don't know.
I mean, Mike. Yeah, Mike. When I saw that it was back, I texted something. I tweeted something, say, "Hey, I need to get onto that." And he's like, "Yes, you do." And so, a couple of things. I'm trying to think of: do I want to shift Dylan Knows to a more of a podcast type of thing? And I don't know if I really want to. But at the same time, I'm thinking maybe I should just do a totally different thing for Loud and Loaded, because then I could just focus that this show alone is for Loud and Loaded. And if I wanted to, and we mentioned it earlier, I think when Loud and Loaded first came out, or not first came out, but when it was big a couple of years ago with Snarkalic Radio and stuff like that, he wanted me to put Dylan Knows on there also. But I'm computer illiterate about how to put put the audio on and transfer it over to him. So
okay, so I'm gonna give you a lesson, because Audacity, which is the program that I was using, is free, and the nice thing about it, the only thing you'd have to do is go, and you can do it, is download your video. So once the video, and this is what I used to do for Snarkalic Radio, and one of the reasons why in the beginning we used to cut it in half was that it was just easier and quicker to download in half, because by the time we finished the second half of the show, the first half would be ready, because you can't download. Like if I wanted to download this, I would probably have to wait about a half an hour. And the funny thing is, after Snarkalic Radio, and you know this because you were part of a lot of it, after the show, the conversation would continue for another hour and an hour and a half. And sometimes the conversation after the show was better than what we did during the show, because it was just a hangout, which is what I kind of wanted to do with Snarkalic Radio, is just have people hang out and just bullshit about stuff. Kind of like, almost like the way this show has been tonight. To be.
Exactly.
But basically, download the show, right? And then all you have to do is you take the file. So you took the video, and all you had to do was drop it on top of the Audacity icon shortcut, and it would open up just the audio portion in Audacity. And then all you had to do was save as, and now you have the raw audio. And the only thing that I used to do for Mike was we'd put that silence in, because then Mike could actually go in and find the silence, and then he could, mark it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And say, okay, you can put a commercial here and commercial there. And that's why it was 10 minutes. But then when Loud and Loaded kind of faded out, and we weren't doing the 10-minute breaks, and we were just going straight long form, it was a little bit different. But yeah, it got to the point where Mike was just like, don't worry about it. Don't even worry about putting the brakes in. And so it is easy. And like I said before the show, I could show you how to do it. It's so simple. Even Scotty could do it. I don't want to say even Myrna could do it, but I'd say even Scotty could probably handle it. And so it's, if I have an idea, maybe I'll talk to Mike, but I don't know. I have no ideas.
No, but the good news is that it's back. I mean, and I know some of the issue had to do with the FCC license and stuff like that, but it's the fact is that Mike is finally, that's how we first met up with. I mean, I think you knew him otherwise than that, but we first met him because he's like saying, yeah, we can put your show on my channel, and it was great, and it helped a lot, and it was able to get people to come and see the show, and it was really fun, and it was the good era. And then when it fell apart, it happens, but now that it's back, I mean, he's trying to fill the space. I mean, really, I think anybody, I think he'd be right at this point. He'd be happy if anybody did anything, because he needs to fill the time. So
well, I'd have to have a longer form conversation with Mike, because I mean, literally he mentioned it, and I was at his office for a little while, and we didn't have enough Hey, I'm in his office and he's working. I'm
Oh
working
yeah,
in his
yeah,
office,
absolutely, yeah.
and um, there's certain situations where we're close by and we can have a conversation while we're both working. And he was, fluttering around all over the place like he does sometimes. And then um, he went out to lunch because I got there kind of like 11 o'clock ish, and, he mentioned it and then he kind of took off for lunch. And then I was done with what I had to do and I was out before he came back. So I didn't really get a chance to talk to him. I've been busy this week. I'm working
Oh,
by
okay.
myself. So it's been a little bit hectic. But hey, let's just end that segment by saying, hey, potentially news to come. Maybe some other stuff is going to happen. If anybody else has an idea for something that they want to try and pitch to Mike, and you're afraid to talk to him, talk to Dylan, talk to me, and I can,
Maybe we can get the cat show up.
Everybody loves pussy.
That would be a perfect name for it on Mike's channel. Absolutely.
Everybody loves pussy.
Everybody loves pussy. Why not?
Hey, and I just want to point out there has been no sexual misconduct on the Snews. There was no sexual misconduct on Snark Alec Radio. There was no sexual misconduct on any episode of Dylan Knows I've ever seen or been part of.
Maybe our Showgirls episode, but that was something else.
Right, but you see, again, I can with a clear conscience say any show I've ever been a part of, or actually, I did see the Showgirls because we were all wondering whether or not either A, Dawn was going to kill you in your sleep, or if the guys in the rubber van were going to show up and take you away, because that was definitely something to see.
Yeah, if we better watch out though, because they might just erase me from this and put Myrna in here for all the old episodes of Snooze. That's I still find that crazy. You heard about that, right? They took Kevin Spacey out of.
Yes, I heard that. Like, actually, it was on Entertainment Tonight. They were talking about that they were filming all of his scenes with somebody else.
Yeah. Crazy.
I don't. You want to know something though? It's hysterical because like for the longest time, I'm guessing, I'm not saying it's right. It is definitely wrong, but for the longest time, people in Hollywood allowed this shit to happen. Okay, and it makes me laugh when there's these people that are like, oh, I'm shocked and appalled at what's. Listen, the casting couch has been a phrase that has been part of the American language for years and years and years. Okay, you don't come up with a phrase, the casting couch, and what that means if there wasn't some sort of basis in truth. Okay, so people with their fake shock, hey, you want to know something? I hate to say it, but when Hollywood comes out and they, almost all of Hollywood in mass comes out and starts saying things about politicians and social subjects and events, it's all well and good, but hey, you want to know something? Some of the shit that's going on behind the curtain there is worse than what's going out over here. Hey, maybe a presidential candidate may have not knowingly said something, not knowing a mic was on and it was recorded. Him saying he was going to grab them by the cat. You want to know something? I can kind of understand, he thought he was getting along with a guy, locker room type thing. Yeah. Okay. Oh my God. Well, this guy talked about doing it Meanwhile, this guy was doing it. That guy was doing it. That guy was doing it. Um, did you hear the other story about? I mean, Corey Feldman has come out and said that he wants to do a movie now, and he's gonna name names. But it came out that I think Corey Feldman said that Corey Haim, the other Corey from that era, was abused by
Charlie Sheen, right?
Charlie Sheen, Tiger Blood himself.
Mm-hmm.
And I was it's just mind-boggling, you know. Now, hey, you want to know something? As soon as I saw Charlie Sheen's name come up, okay, he's going to be the next one, because his name came up, and
it is. It's a spiral because it's, you know, Kevin Spacey. If someone says Kevin Spacey did this to me, and all of a sudden 5 or 6 more people are mentioning it, and now more people are saying it. And then, you know, what's it? When Jeremy Piven now just got 2 more people saying that after one person came out. So yeah, it becomes a domino effect, really. So yeah,
I hadn't heard about Jeremy Piven. I heard about Louis C.K., but Louis C.K. was a little bit different. He just liked to do the old McGivna in front of women, you know. Coming back around.
Yeah, it does.
Right
it always does.
That
exactly.
shoulder surgery is just coming right back around to that shit. But yeah, I actually, right before we started the show, like, I saw that pop up, and I was like, Louis C.K.? You know, I've seen his comedy. I've seen his sitcoms and some of the things that he's done. He's on the border of good taste in some of the stuff I've seen him do. I mean, it makes me laugh. I kind of like somewhat cringe humor, but I don't think I've ever seen him do anything where he, you know, pushed the edge. One of the funniest things that I've ever seen him do was he stole the kid's ice cream and then got on a helicopter and flew away. Like, it's probably one of the funniest little things I've ever seen. But like, he just takes the kid's ice cream, starts looking, it gets on in a helicopter, and like, the kid's just sitting there like this guy just took my ice cream. My ice cream. So, yeah, no sexual harassment going on here.
That's right.
Just so you know. Trying to think if there's anything else that we need to. Okay, so not only did we do entertainment news with Loud and Loaded, but we did a shocking expose on the sexploits of Hollywood. Let's see, is there anything else we need to touch on before we talk about zombies? I'm just want to make sure we get.
Which our big feature article.
Yes, isn't that a big feature?
Big feature story.
Hey, how about those Astros?
Yeah, congratulations, the Astros. Yeah,
congratulations, and you know, especially after they get hit with the hurricane. So we're going back into sports, but I still can't wrap around my head around the fact, and I couldn't watch it. The Houston Astros playing the Los Angeles Dodgers in the World Series. Not that the teams didn't deserve to be there, but the Houston Astros are a National League team. How can 2 National League teams be playing against each other? I don't understand it.
I'm old enough to remember the Brewers when they were in the American League.
Yes. Well, I mean, didn't they kind of swap places at the same time, though?
I think they did, because I can't think of any other potential NL teams except for the Astros who shifted over, because everybody else had been there for a while. The Twins, the Indians, the Rangers, Seattle, yeah, all of them. Yeah. So yeah, I think they must have switched right around the same time. And I guess, or did Milwaukee switch when Tampa Bay came in? Because Tampa Bay has only been around for, I don't know, 20 years maybe? I don't know.
I don't know. I don't really care. All I remember is 1986, the New York Mets had to get through the Houston Astros.
Yes.
To get to the World Series. And they had an ex-Met pitcher named Mike Scott, who the Mets could not hit for crap.
I remember Mike Scott. Mm-hmm.
And when he left the Mets, I think it was he picked up the splitter. And the splitter is one of those pitches where if you're a hitter and a catcher, you hate it, because the ball does some really wicked things, and most of the time, like, it'll just drop down. but it's very hard for a catcher to catch the ball. It's very hard for a batter to hit the ball because the movement on it. Um, the problem with throwing a splitter is it's very difficult to throw for strikes consistently. And when he was on, he was great, but when he was off, he sucked. But basically, the Mets beat Houston, you know, the National League team Houston, and went on to win the World Series.
And you just made me think about we should probably give our thoughts and prayers to Ray Halliday's family. I don't know if you heard about that story.
I heard about that, and I saw the plane, and it doesn't make a difference what the guy was doing. Because if I had one of those piece of shits, I'd be doing the same thing that he was doing. I'd be like doing loop-de-loops and all this other kind of crap. I'd be having a hell of a lot of fun. But I did hear about this DJ who said some off-colored things about.
That was terrible.
And I'm watching that, and you know, the peanut gallery's like, he should be fired. He should be fired. He should be fired. And I was like, I'm kind of having a hard time disagreeing with you here, because I mean, that's no matter what the guy did. Hey, people make stupid choices. Well, not that this was a stupid choice. I mean, but you want to know something? You could wait 6 months and then say your piece, and it's not what the guy said, but it was also the way he said it. You know, that was very bad. You know, if you want to point out, hey, maybe that wasn't the best choice, you can do that. But you know, maybe now is not the right time to be pointing that stuff out either. But yet, that news hit this area very, very hard. It's tough, and you know, they were doing a lot of stuff on the radio yesterday, locally around here. You know, they had ex-teammates and stuff talking on the radio. So, you know, it's not like the guy was a piece of crap or anything like that. He was a really good guy. He loved baseball, and when he left baseball, he found his father was a pilot, also. So he found, you know, joy in doing that. So. Yeah, it's really sad.
He's probably going to make the Hall of Fame, because they were even talking about down here in the Baltimore area, because he was with the Blue Jays for a while, and you know, we played them all the time, and they're like, everybody said the same thing. He was, you know, the dominant pitcher. He got out there, won the Cy Young twice, threw a perfect game, through a shutout, or a no hitter rather, in the playoffs.
In the playoffs, yeah. And one of the thing was, what was the name of the catcher? Utley. Chase
Utley. Yeah.
Chase Utley. A lot of people said that he was one of the hardest working guys in the Phillies organization. Well, if Chase Utley showed up at the game at the ballpark 3 hours before the game, when he got there, Halliday was already there, and he was covered in sweat. And that's the way he was, you know. So he was one of the hardest guys, the hardest workers in baseball also. So, really sad whenever you hear anybody go before their time. You know, hopefully the rest of us live to 150. But, you know, it is sad. But anyway, so I think we've covered everything that we need to cover.
Jawohl.
Except for The Walking Dead.
The main attraction, the main feature.
Okay, so now I was thinking about this today, and we're going to go for an overall grade, okay? But I'm going to give the first 3 episodes a 10, a 9, and a 10. And then there is a reason for the 9. But still, I think going back to season 5, I think approximately 2 or 3 months have passed in the lives of these people. Like, one of my friends was like, I thought she was pregnant. Yeah, Maggie is pregnant, but it's been like a matter of days. Like, it's been like a week and a half or whatever, like a couple of weeks since her husband died. You know what I mean? And I think I'd like to get confirmation on that, but I'm pretty sure from the time that Morgan showed up, okay, to when Rick was killing Porch Dick, to now, 3 months tops has gone by in Showtime. But so ratings, Dylan?
I love the season premiere. It was a 10. I liked the other two. The second episode I'll probably give maybe closer to a 7 or 8 because to me there really wasn't a lot of meat on the bone, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And then last week's was a lot better. I think I would probably give that a 9, maybe a 10, maybe close enough to a 10. So yeah, it's similar to like I think it's sandwiched, two really good episodes sandwiched with one that was to me okay.
Okay, I'm going to change your mind about that.
Okay.
The premiere, again, we both agree was a 10. The reason I gave the second episode a 9 was for those confusing little scenes where they showed little ass kicker where she looked like she's about 5 or 6 and Rick with that beard, but Michonne not looking any different. And trying to figure out is this potentially what's going on, Rick thinking back and having flashbacks to what happened, or is this Rick now and he's just having a dream? And they didn't continue with any more of this in the next episode. So I'm hoping that the purpose of those particular scenes are going to be made known to us. But other than that,
I have a prediction. I'll tell you.
Okay, I'd love to hear your prediction because whenever you put anything like that in the show, you really need to have it pay off quick because if it takes 2 or 3 episodes before you come back and revisit whatever was going on there, as far as I'm concerned, you're losing your impact.
You're not gonna like what I'm gonna say then.
Okay. Well, but you know, in these 3 episodes, one of the things that we had no idea what they were doing, what was happening. You kind of, you saw a piece here, you saw a piece there, and I think there was 4 different groups, like the way they were cut up. And then when things started to come together, I said, okay, so, and it looks like after this last episode, the plan was attack Negan at his main stronghold, get it surrounded by zombies, and contain the main portion of his stronghold and his power, contain everybody there. Then knock off the satellites so they can't come back and help him. And now you still have him pent up in this one spot. So on the face of it, it looks like it was a great plan. Now, the shortfall was, and we found out in the last episode, was that there's a 50 caliber machine gun, or 2 of them, that they thought were in that place where Glenn saw the Polaroids. And okay, that leads us to another question: why the fuck is Rick taking Polaroids now?
It's a fu to Negan because he saw Negan doing it with all the head bashing, and then when he did it with Glenn and Abraham's bodies, they took pictures because there was a scene where you actually see
them take the pictures. Yeah,
where Rick's all freaked out and they're taking pictures of them. He's just doing that to pretty much do a big fu to Negan. To me, that's my opinion. Is that, and then it's his way of he's going to probably drop them off or whatever, say, here, look at what we've been doing to your stuff while you've been pent up here. You hit it pretty much. I think what they're doing is they hit the stronghold, they surrounded that, and they're getting all the satellites. Now, what I loved about the first episode was it was time jumpy. It was timey-wimey, time jumpy. So there were 4 different things which I'm and this is where my theory comes in, that is going to eventually all going to be wrapped around in this season, because they've already come on record as saying that this war is only going to last this season, and then it's going to move on. Next season is going to be the next big storyline. So what my viewpoint is, all the stuff we saw in the first episode is going to come back around eventually in this season. Now, we started seeing the the attack on the one satellite place with Carol and all them, and the big explosion of the tear gas or whatever, and then that was brought up again last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago, whatever, when they came up with that. We're going to find out later on, probably about maybe the mid-season finale or the mid-season premiere, why Rick's eyes are red and he's looking up at the church or whatever, and whose grave it is that he's looking at also, because we've had those time jumps around also, because I think that happens later on, plus the stuff that was going on between Carl and Rick with that stranger who was in around there. That's going to come back around maybe in the second half of the season. Now, when it comes to the old man Rick, this is something I'm thinking back of to the comics, and they're I think they're going to loop back around the comics, where after the final battle in the Negan all-out war, they time jump 2 years into the future. So you can, and it would make sense to do a 2 to 3 year jump at the end of the season and start the season off again with old man Rick waking up again. Now, I don't think it's old man Rick. I think it's everything that Rick's gone through and goes through. It ages him much worse than others. That's why Michonne looks more normal. Plus, Carl was in the sequence in the future also. You didn't see him, though. You heard his voice.
Yeah.
It was a bit deeper, so he was in there as well. And then, little ass kicker, if it is a 2 to 3 year time jump, then yes, you're going to, that fits with the thing. Now, what I think is you're going to see the old man Rick stuff come back either the end of the season, maybe they're going to end it right before the finale and then do the time jump and set up the next season in the finale, and you're going to see that sequence again, or what's leading to that. So I think they just want to say, this is what's going to come this season, boom, 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 and then they're going to do the linear story. I think that's what my theory is. So
okay, no, that makes perfect sense, but I'm gonna tell you, when with that guy at the beginning, where Carl was leaving the food, and that little sequence, and so, like, I understand everything else that's going on as far as the war, because as it started to unfold and stuff, and at one point, when Rick was, I think he was talking to Daryl before they went in, like, you could see things moving in the background, and I was like, wow, they screwed up because they allowed traffic on the road behind them. But then I took a look at what was going on behind them, and it was the cars that were moving with that galvanized steel plating that they were using as bullet, as armor. And I was like, oh, okay, so they didn't screw that up. Love that scene with Tavares, or what was his name? Was it Tavares? The guy from season 1 that
Jesus, I know who it is. Yeah, I know. Oh, it's like a Spanish name.
It is a Spanish name. Morales. Poor Morales. I didn't feel bad for him because he deserved what he got. He could Rick. So, but meanwhile, like, one of the things that's great about the show is that the actors that they have portraying these characters are really good. And when Rick was telling him, that the widow was Maggie, he didn't know Maggie, but her husband was Glenn. He knew Glenn. And when he was rattling off the names of people that he knew that were no longer there, this guy lost his family. We don't know how he lost his family.
He didn't mention Dale. That's the only one I'm mad about, because Dale was with them too. He mentioned Andrea and Shane and Lori and Glenn, but not Shane. I was like, I'm not Shane. I mean, not Dale. I was like, come on, you know Dale also.
Well, Dale and Merle. Well, Merle was
kind of a dick anyway, but he probably would have been okay with Merle being dead.
Well, I think Merle had disappeared before he took off, though.
Right.
But Dale should have been mentioned. Dale, man, that one still hurts. Not really. So somebody I was speaking to thinks that sometime next season is when the survivors from Fear the Walking Dead are actually going to make their way. And I didn't know if that was ever the plan. It just seems to me that Rick and his group had a hard enough time getting from Georgia to Virginia, which is really not that far. I mean, it is, but it's not. You know.
I mean, it is when you don't have, but you have some vehicles, I guess. But
Yeah.
yes, I mean, yeah, it is. Yeah, it can be, but
We're talking about the difference in a couple of 400 miles
yeah,
tops, maybe for Rick and his crew, and upwards of 3,000 miles to get from California to Virginia.
yeah, oh yeah.
Um,
Now, I don't think the crossover is going to happen present day. I think it's going to be present day for Fear the Walking Dead. You're going to see maybe an Abraham or a Morales before they, or you're going to find out what happened to Morales' family. Maybe he's made his way out to Texas. Maybe not, but I think Abraham's probably the better option because he was out in that general area, and they might bring him back to have them run into the people in Texas with his wife and kids still in tow before all the shit hit the fan. I think that's the room right now. We'll see. I don't know.
yeah, I don't remember where he picked up Rosita, because he was with Rosita when no, he wasn't with Rosita when he picked up what's his name.
No, yeah, the mullet boy. Yeah,
Yeah,
no, he had just killed. His family had just gotten
his wife had just been raped
raped,
by the people that he was with.
and then he killed them, and they freaked out, and then they got eaten by zombies or something. So he was recovering. He was trying to kill himself when he heard mullet guy whose name I can't remember right now either. Eugene. Yeah, Eugene. When he came around, and that's how the two of them hooked up, and then eventually they moved down the line. So maybe Eugene will be involved with it as well. Maybe it'll happen just after his. They'll meet up with the Fear the Walking Dead crew after that. I don't know if it's actually going to cross over in the Walking Dead series. I think it's just going to be a crossover in sense that a actor from The Walking Dead is going to be in the Fear the Walking Dead new season, because Gimple's now taken over as executive producer of Fear the Walking Dead with the new season. So he's probably going to maybe make a few changes with that and maybe put it more in line, I think, with regular Walking Dead stuff.
Yeah, my big problem with Fear, which I haven't watched, like I watched the first couple episodes this season, and then I kind of fell off only because my kid was coming home just about every week at the beginning. Actually, this is the first week the first weekend she hasn't come home. I haven't picked her up, and the difference, and this is why it gets a little bit tricky. She's done with class on Thursday by 3 o'clock, so she's looking to get picked up 3:30, 4 o'clock, or 5 o'clock. If I'm in the area, I swing by and I pick her up. But I'm taking her home on Sunday, and so what I'm doing is I'm usually DVRing The Walking Dead and watching it when I get home. So sometimes I'm watching it live, but sometimes I'm watching it a little bit on delay. But I did not like Fear enough to go out of my way and do all that stuff. Like it was good. Like they were doing some good stuff, and it seems like a carbon copy of The Walking Dead, just with different characters in different locations. Like they're going through the same stuff, traveling around, going from place to place, and
there's like a governor-esque character and a
yeah.
Negan-esque character and stuff like that. Yeah.
Right, but and it doesn't seem like they've. I mean, it's still early on in the apocalypse for these people, so they haven't run into a place like the Sanctuary or some of the worser people. But it's they still have avoided the whole I mean, one of the nice things about that show was, seeing how the stuff hit the fan out in California, and we actually saw it start there, but still not enough information. But that, like the first season, I really liked because, they were quarantined, the army was there, then the army pulled out, and if this ever really happened, you could say things like this could be happening all across the nation, you know. But then they got on that boat and they were on the water, and so they avoided a lot of the nastiness that should have been happening on the land, which is okay, a little bit of a different take, but uh, you know, um, as long as they stay over there, that's fine. Um, but I mean, the comic is still going strong, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
And I don't think the show is going to outlive the comic. So I think the show is, and this is the problem, because if in a lot of, and I think you'll agree with me here, Kirkman has said there is an end to this. Like there is a definite end. How do you bring the show to an end without giving away the end of the story in the books? Because I mean, to tell you the truth, I mean that's what's happening right now with Game of Thrones. The last book isn't out yet. It's 4 years late, and it's allegedly coming out soon. But again, you know, um, the story is going where everybody thought it would go. A couple little twists and turns and stuff, but I mean, the show has way past the books now, and the show is probably going to end, you know,
Before the new book comes out.
before the new book comes out, and the new book is so big that, and I've seen this happen before with other authors, where the last book is going to be a part one and a part two, because they just can't make a book that fat. Like it's just physically impossible for them to make a book that's going to have that many pages in it. Um, so, um, you know, the show is gonna end before the book does, and the book is slightly different than the show, but the main themes and the main story are both going in the same direction. So I don't,
Yeah.
how do you? Are you going to piss off all of your fans forever and ever and ever? Uh,
Hard to tell, but the
and
only thing
Kirkman's getting a show now too, isn't he? I thought I saw something like he was getting a show.
he's doing, it's like a history of comics thing. I don't know when it's going to be on. They're going to be doing the premiere is on Sunday after Talking Dead, like they did with Norman Reedus's motorcycle thing. And then it moved to Monday, so I don't know if Kirkman's is going to be moving to Monday also, or if it's going to be moving somewhere else in the week. I'm gonna get it because it's more of along lines of, it's not a fictional show. It's going to be a historical look at the comic book world, and that's something, of course, that I'm hugely interested in. So I'll probably DVR. I'm not going to watch it live because that's 11 o'clock and I'm already in bed by then. I'll probably DVR it, and I'll probably watch it and find out when the next episode is. Like I watched the first few episodes of Comic Book Man. I was like, this is stupid. I hate Comic Book Man. So I haven't watched it since. But this one, hopefully, is going to be more along the lines of, this is like the history of comic books, because there's actually a really good trade paperback I'm reading. It's called The Comic Book History of Comic Books, and it's a comic book about the history of comic books, because I'm a history major. I loved history. I got a BA in history, and I love comic books. And this is basically, in comic book format, how comics were created and became such a big deal in the world now. And so I think Kirkman's doing something similar with this show, but he's going to focus like on, this week we're going to talk about Spider-Man and how, his history from beginning to middle to end. And next week will be Batman, or maybe he'll do 2 and 2, like Superman and Batman together or whatever, and take a look at it. I'm not exactly sure, because this is the first I heard of it. When I saw the ad during The Walking Dead, I was like, what the hell is this? I hadn't heard about it. So I'm interested to see what it might be about. But it looks like it's just one of those talking heads saying, this is what I remember about, this is why I like it. And it might just be one of those, okay, this is good. Yeah, I already know this. Nice. Boring.
See, one of the allures to Oak Island is the history portion of it, like when they find objects and they, talk about it, like, hey, haunted collector, same thing. They always found an object, and okay, so what is this? What was it used for, and blah blah blah. And then when they talk about the history surrounding the area and stuff, like, really interesting. Love that kind of stuff. But yeah, it seems like everybody involved in that show is getting their own show. Um, um, uh, Damn it, Kuditz, the
oh yeah,
Abraham.
Yeah, Abraham.
He was on local radio here a couple of weeks ago, and he's really funny. He's hysterical in interviews, and they had him. He was in the studio with them for about a half an hour, and he was talking about Negan. Well, they asked him about Negan because, like, apparently, the actor has said nothing but good things about the whole cast, but he singled him out and said some really nice things about him. And he said, and they actually had to bleep him out because he said, well, that's really fucking nice of him because he's still got a job. So it's probably one of the funniest lines. But you see, I would like to see, after hearing that interview, like, I would like to see him with his own talking head show because he is, like, very funny. And I'd like to see him in Fear. Like, if I knew he was going to be involved in Fear for a little while, I would definitely tune in because Abraham, with the things that came out of his mouth, was probably one of my favorite characters, only because Mother Dick and all the other things that he said and did in the show. We haven't seen Negan though since the beginning. We saw Rosita for like a half a scene.
Well, here's the thing about it. This is what I'm thinking about also, because you may or may not know this, but the reason why we haven't seen Carl, we haven't seen Michonne, and we haven't seen Rosita are because they're doing other things. Rosita just gave birth to her first child or whatever right before they started filming it, so she's still going to need to rest a little bit. So they're going to keep her out for a little bit till she gets well enough like that. Carl is finishing his first year at college when they started filming this, so he's probably still at school for a while, and then he's going to go right into filming. So eventually he'll show up a little bit more. I mean, he showed up at the beginning of the first season of the first episode, but hasn't been seen since. And then Michonne has a role in the Black Panther movie. It's coming out in February, and maybe during the time that they were filming the season of Walking Dead, she was still finishing up filming with that, or she had to do some after shots like that. You're going to, because what they do is they tend to film the stuff concurrently. So even though we're seeing the stuff that's going on now, they may be filming sequences in Alexandria that's going to show up later on, or with Negan, they're going to show up later on and down the line. Because I think eventually, and it wouldn't surprise me this season if they do a Negan flashback, because his origin has finally been fully done in the comics. So they can basically take that and just go, boom, here's
do a governor, pull a governor, a prequel governor, or well, actually, with the governor, they didn't do that. What they did was they did the story of the governor after.
The first time, Woodbury, and before he came back.
Yeah. Best fight.
Oh my God, yes.
You see? And when you said, oh my God, yes, you knew exactly what I was going to talk about, because I wanted to talk about this. Holy shit, Jesus and Morgan. Now, there was a couple of times in there where you could kind of tell it wasn't really Jesus, like for a split second, like they did it very well. But that was probably one of the best martial artsy fights ever in Walking Dead history, and it's probably in the top 50 of TV.
Absolutely.
We still have Crazy Morgan, we still have Crazy Morgan with that fight.
And the interesting thing about that is the scene where, like, Jesus finally gets him after Morgan's holding the stick at him, and eventually and then Morgan's like, he's like he doesn't even remember what he was doing there. It's
Yeah.
almost like, and then he says something along the lines of, my mind. I know my mind isn't right,
Yeah.
but that doesn't mean I'm wrong, or something like that.
Right. Right. Well, we saw how that turned out. Um, but and the last thing that we need to talk about was, and if you didn't know it was going to happen, you had to be a dope. Why? Because Ezekiel kept on saying, not one will fall, not one will fall, not one has fallen. And the thing is, I went back and I kind of watched it. Like, I don't know what Ezekiel saw when he was looking up to that window, because, they shoot up to that window real quick. And I don't know what he saw, because I actually freeze framed that shit and I didn't see nothing up there, But all of a sudden, he's like, everybody get down. And I'm going to tell you, I am not an expert on guns, but I am an expert because I've watched it on TV with Mythbusters. When you talk about a 50 caliber round, okay, this tank here is smaller than a 50 caliber round.
Wow.
Okay. This is probably about the size of the bullet part, not the whole casing and thing. They were only, I want to say maybe a couple 100 yards away. A 50 caliber round from that distance will go through the engine block of a truck. Okay. So I'm thinking Ezekiel is going to survive this because there is a whole bunch of people in front of him.
Mm-hmm.
I hope Jerry is okay, because I think Jerry may have been one of them.
It looked like he might have been one of the ones that got shot. Yeah, I hope he's not, but yeah.
But in all reality, a bullet of that type, especially from a machine gun, would tend to go through me and you if I was standing in front of you. It would definitely expand and do some other stuff, but for the most part, not only is it going to take me out, but it's also going to take you out also. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I don't know how he could survive. Carol's going to survive because she is a survivor. And actually, in the previews, they showed her being taken or whatever. But hey, the cavalry is coming.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, I was like, man, that's just not good. Not good. And still, I love Sheba, but how do you train an animal to eat the right people? Like, how does the animal know which people to eat, which ones are the enemies, and which ones aren't? Because think about it. In any kind of situation where a zoo animal attacks a trainer, unfortunately, they have to put the animal down.
Yeah.
Only because if an animal gets away with it, it knows that it's okay for it to do it because, hey, I did it. I got away with it. Same thing like a bear comes into a town around here, they'll trank it and they'll take it and they'll bring it out to the mountains and say, hey, this is where you belong. But if it attacks somebody, that's it. Cannot allow it to, because it will just continue to do that behavior. That's what animals do. This animal, it's okay for him to go around and eat people, but how does it know? Again, people are the right ones. And hey, you want to know something? I haven't had my Snickers bar today. Here comes Tara. She's got a nice fat ass. Wow, better than a Snickers bar.
Exactly, absolutely. And then we would be remiss if we didn't talk about Eric's death. Even though he wasn't a major character, it still was like a heart-wrenching, tear-jerker type of thing.
It was heart-wrenching. I don't know why they had to show the walking away, because that was definitely Eric, and the dude that's pulling away is like, that's not him, that's not him, that's not him. But normally the protocol is, if it's somebody that you love, you're the one that
kill it, yeah,
that kills it, because again, I mean, it would have been totally all right for this dude to say, it's not him, it's not him. Okay, I agree, because Eric is dead and this is what's left. But you can't let it just walk away.
Because, of course, it'll probably come back and bite you in the ass.
It's happened
down the line.
before.
It has happened before.
It's happened before. But, I mean, I don't think it's going to happen in this case. It was just a poignant way of ending that for Aaron. And he's been one of my favorite, level-headed, sane, steady kind of characters. Like he's kind of like Daryl cleaned up. Tell him what he has to do, and he goes out and gets it done, or tries his best to do the right thing, and that's going to have some kind of effect on him. Yeah. Is he going to go total crazy, or is he going to turn out to be like Tara? Tara is turning into Carol.
Yeah.
There was actually one scene in the first episode, and where Carol was sitting next to Tara, and there was flowers there, and Carol just turned and started looking at the flowers. And I don't know if they put that in there on purpose, or if it just happened to work out that way. But I wonder if they weren't trying to, pay homage to look at the flowers.
I think they probably were, because Gimple wrote that episode. He also wrote the one that the season premiere, so it might have been a little Easter egg or in joke for himself that he wanted to put out there for something like that. Or maybe again, it could be a possible prediction of what could happen later on in the season. I mean, maybe Carol's going to have to take Tara to look at the flowers for whatever reason, because she's, I mean, I can understand. Look, now Rick appears to be trying to not kill everybody like he was earlier. Now he's trying to try to figure out a way that, we're going to have to keep them together. And Jesus is in the same boat. He believes that as well. But Tara and Morgan and Daryl are all like, let's just kill them all and get them out of here. And it should be interesting to see what Carol's plan is, because we knew how she was, and then she went through that change last season. So I don't know if she's still going to be in that change, or because of what happened to Glenn, is she going to revert back to her Carolness? I think she's going to keep with what she was doing, where she's not wanting to kill everybody, but if she has to, she will. But if she can't, if she doesn't have to, I don't think she will, that type of thing. We'll see. But yeah, Rick seems to be totally changing his mind on things, because he wanted to kill everybody, but now he's sort of like, maybe we shouldn't do it. But then Tara and Daryl like, yeah, why not? Boom, let's just kill them. Let's get it over with, because they can come back. And Morgan does the whole full change also, where he was, he was pacifist and not doing anything. And all of a sudden he wants to kill everything because the kid. I think it all goes back to the kid who got killed, and that's why the one savior was ragging him about his armor.
Yeah,
that tried to get a rise out of him.
I hate that guy. He's the guy who started the fight when the people from the kingdom were making their drop off.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So he's a total d-bag. So, and he plays a great d-bag. So he's probably a d-bag in real life. So that's right. You heard it from here. That's my prediction. He's a d-bag in real life. Probably in the first episode, the worst Independence Day speech ever, from all those involved. And the last thing that we need to talk about, and it's probably the least important, but the thing that pissed me off the most. Well, there's two things. Where the hell is Father Gabriel? Is he dead? Okay. And Maggie let douchebag back in the compound. Okay. Well, there goes the Snickers bar for the lion, I think. Wouldn't it be funny if the lion just came by and said...
Yeah, it was funny on Twitter how everybody was screaming, "Don't let him in, Maggie!" And then I think it was Lee said something like that, and then I said, "Yeah, my prediction is that he's going to free the saviors that are in they're going to be in the back of the compound in their little stations where Jesus is going to put them, and they're going to take over the compound or something like the kingdom or the hilltop."
The hilltop.
The hilltop, yeah.
Yeah, it's not going to work.
No.
I don't think many are left. But again, they do like to have artistic license on that show, because when they need a zombie, you can become a zombie like that. You know, like I was just thinking about that the other day. And still, it still irks me a little bit. Go back and watch season 1. Those mother effers were running. Okay, they never ran in Fear the Walking Dead. They never ran.
Right.
Okay, and they haven't run since the first season. Because they're called the Walking Dead, not the Running Dead. But yeah, so that was something that I was like, okay, there's got to be a reason why they let him back in. He's probably going to die horribly. And like I say, we'll have to see how that works out for him. But yeah, he's no friend of mine. And
now,
the other,
I'm sorry, I was going to say the rumor now is that that appears that there was intimated in the first episode or second episode that there was a spy who was in Rick's group and was giving information in Negan's group, and a lot of people are thinking now that might be Gabriel because of what happened with the trash people last season and them being in the same room with Negan. And yeah, he has that threatening tone in him, but maybe he's because Father Gabriel didn't look scared at Negan. He was more worried about the zombies outside. But so that's the rumor now. We'll see if that comes to fruition or not, that he might be the mole that supposedly, from what I've been reading online, that someone mentioned there was possibly a mole in Rick's group. I mean, we already know the one in Negan's group, but there might be one in Rick's group also. So
you want to know something? I would hate to see, because Gabriel finally grew a pair.
Yeah, exactly.
And he started out like Eugene did, almost not as bad as Eugene, but almost as bad, I would think. Like when we saw the sniveling Eugene from when Abraham picked him up, you still have the same Eugene, but Gabriel was somewhat like that. But there was also, his story was there was guilt there, because like his wife was down in that place where they were going to get the supplies, and he failed his congregation because he locked the doors, and people couldn't get into the church. But he seemed to come around, and he grew a pair.
Yeah. Again, it's just theories. Theories don't always come to fruition. We know that.
Yeah. I mean, it sounds like it would be a great theory, but like I'm just saying, like I hope it's just a theory and it doesn't come to fruition. But at this point, like it just seemed to me, it does Negan no good in the situation where he's at, to bash Gabriel's brains in, because he's still trapped in there, and now he's going to be trapped in there. Okay, yeah, so you bash his brains in, so he's not going to turn to a zombie, but now you've got
a dead body,
decomposing in this small little trailer where you're trapped. Doesn't seem like to be the best of situations, unless there's an escape hatch where he can go up out of the roof, which is probably what's going to end up happening. Is they'll figure out a way of cutting themselves out. But I think Negan might use him for information. And Negan doesn't have a problem killing anybody. He killed that doctor guy. He threw him into the forge. He has no problem killing you.
Right.
I thought Eugene, he's the type of character where he can fearfully lie to you, and because of his character being always so afraid that you'd have to believe him. You know, when he turned around and asked Eugene about Sasha being a zombie, and he says, "Well, I guess it's airtight." You know, and that kind of makes sense. Coffin should be airtight. You know, so she suffocated, and that's why she was a zombie when she came out, because like nobody thought to put any kind of holes in there for air. Um, so, um, yeah. Now that's going to be, I think, a more interesting story of what happens with Eugene. Um, Now I can ask for spoilers, and I could say, hey, isn't he still alive in the comics? Doesn't he? You know,
his character is completely different, though. His character never went to Negan and never did any of that stuff. So it's they've taken license with Eugene's character. So Eugene's character is far away from it. Gabriel's character is far away from where he is in the comics as well. Morgan's character is as far away from the character in the comics as well. I mean, the only one that has any sort of consistency might be Rick, might be Carl, and Michonne somewhat, but Michonne is a little bit more
Andrea.
Yeah, well, Andrea actually in the comics, spoiler alert, Andrea was the big death a couple issues back. She and which was a really good it was a really good issue. So if they're gonna flip flop that and make that Michonne's death, that's gonna be a gut punch if they're gonna ever do something like that, because that was a brutally hard issue of the comics to read, and she didn't die viciously. I mean, she was bit by one of the zombies, so she was slowly, turning into one because of the virus. And it was basically the issue. She died was Rick and her basically having a conversation. So it was it was a good thing. But yeah, so you have all them still going on, but the only characters that right now that are the same pretty much in the comics they are now. I mean, Jesus is pretty much close to who he was. Rick, Michonne, though Michonne's a little bit more raw in the comics because of what happened to her with the governor. And that's really about, and Carl, of course, and that's really about it. And then Negan, of course. Negan's still Negan-esque, but he undergoes, and this is a spoiler also, a huge character change after the war's over, which is, I find it actually refreshing. It's actually very entertaining. So that's just me, though.
I hope he sticks around, and because one of the things that all of these people in this situation have to realize, the more people that are working together for a common good, the better off you all are, because you can't make it alone. We've already discovered that. The only way you can make it alone in this world is if you've got a cave high up on some kind of a ski resort.
Absolutely.
That is full of food, and you have easy access to snow that you can melt to make water, and you've got solar panels for some kind of energy to have some kind of basic electrical items around you, like maybe like something to heat water and stuff like that. But they don't have any of this stuff. They have some electric because they've got some solar, but they every time they get something started, people start fighting, and they got to stop fighting and working together so they can grow food and have some kind of sustainable.
You are so close to what may eventually happen, but I'm not going to say any more about that.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's I'm not guessing. I'm just telling you what's coming out of my head for common sense purposes, and pretty much it. Because other than that, hey, guess what? Every time somebody dies, they become one of the enemy. Eventually the number of zombies out there has to start declining, because we've had this conversation. After a while, these things are decomposing. They got to decompose to the point where they're no longer going to be a threat, and there isn't a population. Hey, when you've got 8 million people living in a city like New York, lots of people can become zombies in a very short period of time. Okay, 2 years later, those 8 million zombies, or there's 7,500,000 zombies, are going to stop being zombies and just turn into dust, you know?
There's that, and also the fact that eventually the survivors are going to realize, oh wait, go to the head. They're gonna die. They're not gonna keep hanging around. And the fact of the matter is, we haven't really seen, with the exception of Shiva, how animals are reacting to it. I mean, if there are animals out there, birds, stuff like that, that they feast on carrion. So it'd be like a smorgasbord for them. It's like, holy shit, look at all this food, and they'll just come down and start pecking at it and eating them, and then before you know it, they're gonna be dead too, because they're gonna be in all eaten. Because is it going to affect the animals? I don't think we've seen any zombie animals. So
not in The Walking Dead, no.
Yeah. So
not in The Walking Dead.
So I think you're absolutely right. I think eventually you're going to start. Plus, I wish they would do this in the show, but I understand because of the way the shooting schedule is. The comic has done stories that take place during the winter, and what happens during the winter is the zombies basically, they go into some sort of suspended animation. They don't walk around. They're basically frozen to where they are, and then that way you can wipe out a bunch also, and they don't need to survive or anything, because they're already dead. I mean, they're not going to starve to death. They're already dead. There's just the motivating factor for them is they need to eat, and that's why they attack people. But during the winter, they basically go into a sort of suspended animation because it's so cold, and they don't have any skin or whatever. So a lot of them just freeze, or there's a scene in one of the comics which is so great where the survivors, Rick and the group, they go out on this field trying to search for food, and it's just zombie icicles. Popsicles, whatever, just standing there, and they're just looking at them like, wow, this is really cool. They're like putting in the wave to see if anything's coming, and then they can just go, well, dead, done, we're safe, that type of thing. So I wish they would do something like that in the TV show, but I know they usually aren't going to, because the shooting schedule is spring to fall, so they never shoot in the winter. So I wish they would at least one episode.
That and some of the things that we saw early on with the traps, where they have some kind of a contraption that is wind powered. There's motion and sound that seems to attract them, and bring them to an area where, they can be contained. I'd like just, they should have this shit all figured out. You know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, yeah.
But again, when you're wasting resources fighting against each other and not fighting against a real enemy, you're not going to make any kind of real progress. And I think there is going to become. Eventually it's going to come to an end. I think eventually, they're going to have a group, and they're going to meet up with other groups, from further away. And eventually there's going to be some kind of a cure, or I think, just like anything else, I think there's a potential for there to be people that are immune to the zombie virus. And I think some of the people that are still alive may be in that group, where even with a bite, that they will not die from that. And when they do die, they will not change.
Zombie out, yeah.
And who knows? Maybe we've already seen that. Maybe Rick is already a survivor. Okay, whether he acquired the immunity or whatever, but that could be something that could play into it, because there is no virus or any kind of disease that is 100% fatal across the population. You know what I mean? I mean, there are some things that are like 99.99% fatal. Like if you contract it, 99% of the people that get it are going to die, but not 100% of the population gets that disease.
Right.
I
mean, hell, Stephen King wrote a whole book about it called The Stand. So,
Stand. There's also, The Last Ship. Okay.
Right.
In The Last Ship, there were, one of the storylines was that they were infecting the population because there is a group of people that are survivors. They call themselves the immunes, and they wanted to take over the world. And so what they would do is they would introduce the virus into pockets where people were still living in numbers, and they'd wipe out just about everybody. And then the people that didn't die in that area, they'd come back and pick them up, because you're also an immune. And the thing is, just because you're immune to that doesn't mean you're immune to everything else, but
Exactly.
you're immune to this thing, which is very devastating.
Which wiped out everything, yeah.
But yeah, and so if you are Rick and you're immune, okay, let's just say let's follow my theory. Maybe
Okay.
Rick is immune, okay, and maybe way back when he got the old thing in the hand and he had that bandage on the hand where oh my God, is Rick going to lose his arm and all that other crap. It would go to follow that Carl potentially is also immune, and therefore possibly little ass kicker. And the only reason I say little ass kicker is because we don't know 100% sure whether or not Rick is her father. So, but everybody else survived. Nobody else has been bit, and so far, everybody that has gotten bit has succumbed,
Right.
and everybody that dies. The only way we'll know is if somebody actually died who we suspect could possibly be immune and they don't turn.
Yeah.
But at this point, one of the things that they always do when people die, they get the knife to the head. So there may be immunes that have already died and we don't know about it because they got a knife to the head and we never gave them the opportunity to change. Like they'd have to find somebody dead on the ground that has been dead for a while, that doesn't have a bullet hole or a knife wound to the head, and not be a zombie for them to start saying, how did that happen?
Yeah, wait a second. I mean, and to me, I've always thought that the true story of The Walking Dead eventually was going to be Carl's story. I always thought that was where they were leading it to. So if that's the case, maybe he is immune as well. He's never been bitten that I know of. So, but Rick has had those issues before, and he's been fine, dandy. So it's a good theory. I like it.
Well, I mean, again, we've had this discussion since the beginning. Whose story is this? Because if it's Carl's story, he can't die. If it's Rick's story, he can't die. Or it could be Rick's story, and the whole ending to this show could be when Rick dies. The only reason I am more towards the fact that it's Rick's story was like the first 2 episodes really focused on Rick.
Rick. Mm-hmm.
But I mean, there's no. That would be an interesting way of ending the show, and ending the comic book also. Okay. Society gets to a point where I was talking about earlier where there's more cooperative and there's even more groups. And don't forget the ladies down by the ocean, the oceanside people. We could bring these people in here too. You get a nice big growing community of people working together cooperatively, and Rick is just looking around with Maggie and the other leaders, and they look at what they've built, and then Rick just keels over and dies. And that could be the end of the show, and there's still zombies outside the gate, and okay, Rick is dead, put a knife through his head and put him in the grave, say goodbye, Carl. Hey, Dad, here's your hat back. Have a nice day.
Absolutely.
Okay. I think we've solved 99% of the world's problems. Now all we got to do is figure out what we're going to do about that guy in Korea, and I think we've got it all covered. You want to save that for next show?
Yeah, you can do this. So maybe give him some shoulder surgery. Maybe that'll help him out.
Shoulder surgery. that might not be good because he might not be ambidextrous like Mr. McGivna.
Forgiveness, yes. We will save it. Yes, we will save it for next time.
Save it for next time. So now is the time of the show where
we compare calendars.
we go. Yeah. So let's see. We've got the first Thursday in December is December 7th.
Yeah, December 7th.
A date that will live in infamy.
It will be. It will. Let me think about that a second. So that would be 1, 2, 3 more episodes. That would lead us to episode. That would be episode 6. So it would be right before the finale of a mid-season finale, because I think the mid-season finale would probably be December 10th. So that might actually be perfect timing, unless you want to push it back to the 14th and just do a finale wrap up regular season. So I think I'm good either way, because Noel's birthday is the 12th, so we'll celebrate it 2 days earlier.
So why don't we schedule it for the 7th, and then on the 7th we'll have that discussion about if we're gonna, because in 2 weeks would be the 21st.
Yeah.
And we just passed 3 episodes, so 4, 5, 6
would be the 3rd.
7.
7. I think it's 7 episodes. I think either the 10th or the 17th is going to be the mid-season finale. So
this is season 7, right?
Yeah. Let's just see if they have something. Are you looking it up then?
Mm-hmm. Yo, Googanator. And let's see, 16 episodes. So it looks like it's going to be 8 and 8.
8 and 8 then, okay. So that puts it at the 17th then. Yeah, that puts it at the 17th then.
Okay, hold on. I'm going to go into the Wikipedia, because one of the things that's really good about the Wikipedia is they do show the scheduled air dates. So let's see. The day will come when you won't be. The Well, The Cell, The Service, Go-Getters Swear, and episode number 8 is December 11th.
Wait, no, that's last season.
Oh, that's last season.
Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it's season 8 then. So we're on season 8 now?
Season 8. Season 8 is 16. Let's see. So we've got...
Monsters was the name of last week's episode.
Wait, ratings. Okay, wait. Oh, okay, wait, hold on. This is all last season. Shit. This is last season. Dun, 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 dun.
I thought it was season 7. I guess it's season 8 then. So, let's just check that out then.
All I got to do is go back and change that 7 to an 8, and then hit the Wikipedia. Wikipedia season 8. Here we go. Dun, 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 dun. Scrolling down. Okay, so some guy is November 12th. November 19th is The Big Scary You, The King, The Widow, and Rick. That is interesting. So they've only got air dates for the first 6 episodes. So we could only assume that, hey, they're going to go ahead and do what they've normally done. So let's go for the 7th, and then we'll see where we're at.
Go from there. Yeah, that's a good
right.
idea.
If we gotta have a special one on the 21st, that's the nice thing about the 21st and where it lies is that it should not interfere with any kind of Christmas festivities, because they don't come till the weekend. So.
Okay. December 7th. All right, there we go. All right.
December 7th. I need to hit the plus sign. I put this in my Microsoft calendar because it's good there.
There we go. All right. That's added to my list.
So. I'm still waiting for this piece. Oh, there it goes. Snooze. And let's see. It's going to start at 9. And it's going to end. Yeah, right. Okay.
Sometime.
Okay. Event description. The snooze.
The snooze.
The snooze.
Yep. Uh, just while we're doing typing, brand new Dylan News on Sunday, 12:30. MJ and I will talk comics. I think I'm going to see Thor Ragnarok tomorrow. MJ hadn't had a chance to see it yet, so he's going to see it probably this weekend. Also, we'll discuss that and some other interesting stuff going on in the world of comic books. The week after that will be Jerry and I will be doing our top 10 list. We'll be doing top 10 pet peeves. Our pet peeves, and then it's Thanksgiving, so that'll probably just be a solo sometime show during the Thanksgiving holiday. And,
a solo show?
Solo show. Hey, the one thing I did want to, and I can talk to you about this, later on later this week or this month or whatever. I kind of want to bring you and Bronwyn in for like a Doctor Who discussion because they released the picture of the new female Doctor, and I want to get your take on some of your because you're caught up on Doctor Who, right?
I have seen everything, and I know they're going to be starting up again soon. I actually just finished watching a show called Broadchurch on Netflix, which stars David Tennant as a detective. I thoroughly enjoyed it. I have a whole bunch of Doctor Who old episodes on my DVR, and I watch them every once in a while. Like I go through. One of the things that the BBC does that really pisses me off, though, is some of the Doctor Who episodes are two-parters. And sometimes they'll show, a lot of times they'll show part one, and they won't show the part two right after that. Like they'll jump to, they're, when it's off Doctor Who time, like a couple of weeks ago, they had a marathon on. And I had it on. I was doing stuff on Saturday. I was doing stuff in the house, and I had it on. It was cool. Like, I'm watching it kind of, and like they'd have part one. Okay, like they had the library episode, which is a good episode. Okay, they didn't show part two. They showed the first part, and then at the end of the episode, next time on Doctor Who, they show you, the previews for the next episode, and then the next episode was not that episode. Like, how could you do that? I mean, I did see it, but
no, when you're expecting to, watching it again, you need to see, yeah. So I want to do that, and I think I also want to do a Star Wars episode for the 40th anniversary or in December sometime with the Last Jedi coming up. So I've got those in the works right now. So you might hear from me if you're interested in hanging out with that.
Oh yeah. I mean, I'm caught up, and as you're speaking, I started typing and I stopped. I want to see what she looks. I don't. You see, I don't have a problem with there being a female Doctor. I just. Oh, what's her name? I've seen her before.
She was in Broadchurch also.
Yeah, she played the mother. She played the mother.
I mean, everyone. I love her. Because they just released a picture of her in her costume, and I love the costume. And I'm actually starting to get a little stoked about this season. And this is basically a restart because Moffat's off of it too. I might start watching it live and get caught up when I get a second. But that's definitely what I want to do.
If you're looking for, and I don't know if you've ever watched it or what your feelings are. Have you ever watched Sherlock?
I have not.
Oh, dude.
Pretty good. Benedict Cumberbatch and Martin Freeman. Yeah.
I think, and I'm not sure, I think Martin Freeman might be in the new Orient Express movie because I've seen there's like 4 or 5 different trailers out there on TV. Like I haven't searched them out, but in one they show someone's face, and I'm like, that's Watson. I highly, highly recommend Sherlock. the thing about Sherlock is that there are cases every episode, but it's the longer form, uh, over-bridging story arc that's going on in the background that is so. And the characters are very good. And actually, I think on they actually have a whole bunch of things that are like behind the scenes because Gaddis, who's one of the writers and stuff, also plays Sherlock's brother.
Okay.
And they have these little episodes where they go in behind the scenes of some of the stuff. And if you're I think you would like it. I think Dawn would like it too. I mean, the episodes are a little bit long. Like each one is like an hour and a half or whatever. So it's like, but the seasons are only like 5 or 6 episodes
Yeah,
long. So
I remember hearing about that. Yeah, I mean, I've always liked Sherlock Holmes, so yeah.
it's definitely. I mean, the characters are good. There's certain things that are just gonna make you mad, but it makes you mad in a good way. Um I hope they do more. But yeah, I'm looking at the picture of her, and she's got a Pink Floyd shirt on, which isn't really, it's just a rainbow going across the front. But you see, I don't know if I could take the Doctor with a male companion, and I don't know if this Doctor would.
They're going to have 3 companions. One's a female. There's at least a male one, and I forget the sex of the third one. So she has 3 she's got coming up. So we'll have to wait and see how that's all going to get played out. I couldn't tell you what it was, but I know it's 3. So I just don't remember who the actors' names are, but they are 3 of them. And I love her new costume. I just with the suspenders and. There it is right there.
Yeah, and they say she's got some unusual earrings, and in the picture that I'm looking at, I cannot see what the
Yeah, I
earrings.
can't either. Yeah, is it this one with her with the TARDIS in the background?
Yep. Yep.
Yeah, that's the.
Oh wait, hold on. Oh, so she's got a piercing up at the top, and because there's a close up of her head, and I want to see if I can.
Okay.
Let me see if I can zoom this sucker.
Oh yeah, okay. There's something that looks like it's like on the top of the ear. Yeah.
Yeah, there's something at the top, and she's definitely got something in her lobe. And let me see. I am at 500%, and I'm looking at my second screen, not on this screen.
Right.
I can't tell. I did not realize that she would. I just was looking for something to watch after I had finished watching Sherlock, and I was going around, and I like longer form. Like I can't watch. I mean, I can, but like Criminal Minds, where it's at the beginning, there's a murder or something happens, and they wrap it up at the end of the episode.
Right, exactly.
I like longer form because that's more realistic to like what real life is, and that's another good show I would suggest. It's weird because once you see what's going on, there's what happens in the first season, and then there's the second season which loops back before it, but it doesn't loop back. But because David Tennant's character is in Broadchurch because of something that happened in his past, a case that he worked on, and it was unresolved. But then they have the murder that happens in Broadchurch, and they figure that out. And then the second season is about the trial, but then it loops back to them finding out and solving what got him in Broadchurch in the first place.
Okay. All right.
So it is good, and the characters are great. But I mean, I was like, she's not a stunningly beautiful woman, but she's not hard on the eyes either. So she's a perfect pick, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just you want to know what's more interesting to me though than the new Doctor is what's going to happen inside the TARDIS, because there's also the change in personality of the TARDIS, and that's always interesting uh, too. Um, but I mean, I liked Capaldi. I mean, what ends up happening is like when you get the first, and maybe it'll be different with her, but the first couple of episodes with the new Doctor, you're kind of like, eh, and then they start to grow on you. Um, I still think that David Tennant had some of the best storylines, although the Amy Pond storyline with Smith was really good, and he had some great storylines too. But I still like Dave Tennant.
Hmm.
Um, like if I was gonna like have to pick a favorite Doctor, it would have to be him. But I think my favorite companion was still Jenna Coleman. Um, because I liked Amy. She was okay.
Hmm.
I'm trying to think. Um, but still, I think. Um, could you pick out a favorite Doctor Who episode? Because I know which mine is.
I haven't seen them all yet, but I like the what's the one I really really like? With Eccleston, it was the two-part took place in World War II. Are You My Mummy, or is that World War One? Like World War One, World War Two.
That was World War One with the "Are You My Mummy" with the kid that was
Yeah,
wearing like
and
the
and
mask.
it also introduced a Captain Jack. Also, I like that one.
I like Captain Jack. You want to know who else is in Broadchurch? Um, the girl from Torchwood, the one who was the main female character
Okay.
in Torchwood.
Mhm.
She's in all of these British. Like it's like an incestual relationship with these people. Um,
What would be your
Blink.
favorite? Yeah, okay. Yes. Don't Blink. Yeah, that's another one that I like too, with the Weeping
Um,
Angels. Yeah.
yes, that, and there's a couple others. Um, the thing with the library at one point, because that was the big lead up to near the end of when Tennant's
Yeah.
reign,
Hmm.
um, was Rose is showing up on one of the screens in the library, and you could see her there, and it was like, oh man. But yeah, it's a great show. I mean, Capaldi's had some really really great storylines too. I mean, um, there's a sequence. I think it's either two or three with Maisie Williams, where she's the girl who didn't die, and
Right. Hmm.
they run across her a couple of times. It's just amazing how these people's minds work. It's just like I get jealous.
Well, we can talk about that later, but it's getting late, my friend.
Yeah, I know. It's oh crap. Holy shit. All right. Good night. I'll see you in about 3 weeks.
All right. Bye, guys.
Good night. And we're off.
Yeah.
And good night, Dylan. Holy shit. Yeah, we were wrapping this up for the last 20 minutes.